Okay, welcome back to our live channel. Make sure you subscribe and like the video. Comment below if you have any questions. I am bringing Raelyn Yoder with K&R Yoder Accounting out of Oklahoma. Um, Raelyn, go ahead and introduce yourself and give a little background of how long you've been doing this.
Thank you, Wes. Again, my name is Raelyn Yoder. I'm with K&R Yoder Accounting. We are a full-service accounting firm that offers mostly bookkeeping services. I've been doing accounting for, I hate to say this, for over 35 years. Started straight out of high school and have been doing it ever since. Um, I've worked for QuickBooks Live. I've worked for lots of corporations, and we've been doing our own bookkeeping firm for about the last 10 years now, which this year I'm proud to introduce we've rebranded as K&R Yoder Accounting.
That's awesome. It's been a journey, I'm for sure, and we're glad to have you on the channel. And it's something that we're still new to, and one day I'll get there to be kind of a little easier on it. So we're coming to you to talk to you today about contractors and W2's. I kind of want to go through a few different areas. Kind of want to go through what a contractor is classified as, and then kind of a W2, because there's kind of misunderstanding. And as you guys know, rules have changed since the last time that you guys have sent out 1099s. So, Raelyn, kind of go over the new rule and aspect of the new contractor.
Okay, so the government last year has, or actually they did a couple years ago, but it went into effect this year that if you make more than $600, regardless of how it's paid out, you now need to give that individual a 1099. So in the past, large corporations like PayPal and eBay and what have you, they issue their 1099s and they still do, but they used to have a threshold, I believe it was $20,000.
Correct.
So it let a lot of people skate underneath the radar and they weren't reporting that income. So with the gig economy and everything changing like it is, the government's decided that they want to put a tighter rein on it. So now eBay and PayPal and all those, Etsy and what have you, have to report income anything over $600, just like a regular business does.
Right. So I know one question that came to us a few days ago was asked that does that mean if a client does not pay, let's see how they worded it. If they're paying with a credit card, does that mean they still have to issue that person a 1099?
No. So when you issue 1099s as a company, you issue them on any cash or check payments. So
Okay.
if you're paying somebody with the
Right.
Visa card, then Visa's supposed to handle that 1099.
Okay. So no matter what, they're still going to get a 1099 from someone if it's over the 600.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So you guys could be looking at having multiple 1099s from people, more than one. And so now, one thing that I've been asked is what if they file their taxes already and then they get 1099s coming in? So in that aspect, you would want to amend that return and file correctly with those 1099s. Um, Another way to make sure that you're staying on top of it would be to make sure that you kind of write down who you're paying, who's paying you, and keeping track of that by a software. That way, you kind of get an idea of how many 1099s you're going to get throughout the year. So um, let's see, what other questions have I had? Raelyn, you've been doing it a lot longer than I have. So, what questions or what concerns have you seen that has helped you be able to stay in line with producing that 1099?
So the challenges as a bookkeeping firm that we face every single year is the client wants to know, do I owe this person a 1099? And again, it depends on how you paid that person and what you paid them for.
Okay.
So a lot of times we have to separate, like I have one client who recently had a nice fancy fence installed around her business. And she actually paid the invoice. She paid one company to buy the fencing material, and she paid another individual to actually put the fence together. And she was asking, well, Do I 1099 the fencing company? Well, no, you bought a good from them. You didn't buy a
Mm,
service, but you do need to 1099 the person that put the fence together. And she was like, "Well, he's just an individual. I don't know." Well, just as a matter of as good business, if you're going to pay anybody more than a couple $100 for providing you any sort of service, you should request that they fill out a W-9 for you, just in case that you repeat business with them later and you hit that $600 threshold. So don't wait until now and start trying to chase after the contractors because they're all busy and you're not going to get
right.
back time on. So that's
Yeah.
been my struggle is one, determining who needs one, and then two,
Yeah.
getting the necessary information, that W-9, so we can actually issue the 1099.
So what do you recommend us doing whenever, that client does not get us that W-9 to be able to get them listed as a contractor? Is there ways around to where, it doesn't come on back on us, but it comes back on that client or that person that did not fill out that W-9?
So it kind of depends upon the client and the situation. If I know everything but the contractor's social security number, then a lot of times I will go ahead and complete the 1099 and just leave the social security line blank. That is not
Okay.
ideal, and
Right.
I prefer not to do that. Other times, if all I know is a contractor's name, you can still do that. Go ahead and prepare the 1099 and just leave those fields blank. However, there is a chance that if the IRS is being picky that year, that you could be penalized for doing that.
Right. Yeah.
Um, so you don't really want to do that. You really want to try to get the W-9. What a lot of business owners I don't think ever realize is that who is on the hook if they don't issue this 1099. So for
Yeah.
instance, let's say you got a bunch of contractors and you didn't issue them 1099, you get audited by the IRS, they see this, they're going to consider those people automatically employees, and
Mm,
you, the business owner, have to cough up the money for the
mm.
income tax. They don't go after the
Ooh.
contractors, they go after the business owners. So
Yeah.
it's real, and then there's fines for not
Right.
complying. So
Mm.
just it's not worth not submitting those 1099s.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm sure, the interest rate and the fines are probably hefty. And so we definitely don't want to go down that boat of doing
Yeah.
it. One thing I have also been, informed, what about those that we pay rent to? And, what if they're not filing as an S Corp and they're just an LLC? Does it matter if it's an LLC or an S Corp?
Yes, yes, it does. So typically, a corporation is absolved from 1099s, and if they check the little LLC box, I usually, by caution, I go ahead and issue them a 1099 anyway, because
Okay.
what we don't know on being the receiving side, are they taxing themselves, or doing their tax returns as a corporation, or just
Mm,
as a sole proprietor?
yeah.
And it's better to err on caution. I mean, it doesn't hurt a corporation to receive a 1099. I used to get them all the time when I worked for large corporations. We
Right.
just filed them.
Yeah.
We to the CPA, but he was like, because we'd already accounted for that income within our
Mm,
books, so we
yeah.
just passed them on, and they were not a part of the return.
Gotcha. Okay. So we did bring up a few different tabs open from the IRS. This is directly from the IRS's website. So I'm going to share my screen now, and then we can kind of go through it and look over it and see if people have any questions. Was hoping again my wife would join, but you guys, sh- it she's busy, so
Busy.
she just got the kids home from school. And then Laura is not on here either. Laura is my um, client that rents out the building from me, a few spaces. Um, she's been one that has supported me. So make sure you guys follow her on YouTube and TikTok. She's a big TikToker. So she's trying to branch out and um, to the YouTube market. Um, Raelyn, I make big for you, so hopefully you can see it. Um, so independent contractors define, and the IRS is right up here, so it's directly from their website. Um, People such as doctors, dentists, veterinarians, lawyers, accountants, contractors, subcontractors, pretty much the list goes on. who are independent trade, business, or profession in which they offer their service to the general public are generally independent contractors. So, kind of, Raylan, what that tells me is these people are generally an independent contractor normally, so they should be getting a 1099s, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So now there's a difference in contractors and W2's or employees. So employees normally get issued a W2 at the end of the year, and you guys have taxes taken out each paycheck. A contractor does not have any taxes paid out, and they have to pay taxes at the in the next year. So we're in 2023, we're filing on 22. So we would be paying the taxes that were needing to be paid for 22, not 23. So it's not, we're paying in advance. It's a paying for the previous year. I've had a few questions on that and people asking, what the difference was. And, there is a big difference, and you need to know if your business can support a W2 employee before you bring them on. If you feel like it's going to be a struggle, it's something that you really want to think about before you just automatically hire a W2 employee.
Yep.
If you are an independent contractor, then you are self-employed. So tell me what this means. So they're saying that this 1099 worker is self-employed. So does that mean they can claim gas, mileage, all the expenses that a normal self-employed person would be able to claim?
Yep. Yep. Usually when you're an independent contractor and you're self-employed, then you do get to have the deductions. They change the tax laws every year, of course, just to
Right.
keep people like Wes on his toes.
Yep.
And they recently changed it where if you are working from home and you're a remote employee, that you don't have, that's different. You don't have the same deductions that a person who's truly self-employed.
Correct. I'm going to switch cameras so I can see the.
Seems like we lost your audio, Wes, when you did that.
Let's switch back. I don't want to lose my audio. Okay.
Nope.
Oh, there we go. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Let's see if I switch it now.
Nope, I can't hear you now.
Well, we're going to switch back to the
Yep.
other one. Sorry about
I
that.
can hear you now. Oh, technology, isn't it great?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's always something. So, like I was saying, just because you are self-employed does not mean you can claim gas and mileage at the same time, right, Raelyn? It's one
Correct.
or the other.
That's right.
Either keep track of mileage or keep your receipts for fuel. One thing I have seen is that, on the tax side is a lot of people will not even, keep track of that. And then they have to go back and, go to their bank statements and then, find that and, calculate it that way.
Mhm.
It's very difficult. I recommend keeping a box or a folder or something to keep those receipts in so that
Yep.
you always have them.
Yep. And I recommend that you keep a small booklet in your vehicle.
Yeah.
And when you pull up to a client's location, you write down your mileage, the date, the time.
Hmm.
And, if you go to the grocery store, you write down, because what you really need to try to separate is the difference between the personal use and the business use of that
Correct.
vehicle. And you
Yes.
must have documentation.
Hmm.
Gas station receipts is not good enough for the IRS.
Right.
So you need that mileage log is what I call it.
Yep, for sure. And it's a good way to, stay organized and also kind of know, how much you're spending on those clients as well.
Yep.
So that way you're not, understating anything. or
Yep.
overstating anything.
And you can also use it for other analysis too. Like, is it time to buy myself a business car?
Right.
Because you're seeing that 80% of your mileage on your personal car is business, and maybe it's
Correct.
time to buy a second car. So those are some
Yeah.
of the data sets can help you make those decisions.
Yes. That's a good call out as well. Um, So, if they're self-employed, Raylan, and they get a 1099, um, so what would they be able to claim? So it's probably more of my line of scope, but I kind of want to get your opinion too, because not everything you can claim as a self-employed. And if they're new to
Right.
this, they might not even know what they can claim.
Yeah.
And so,
I see a lot of clients, because of ignorance of the laws, that they leave a lot of deductions sitting on the table that they could have taken because they did not document things well enough as they went through their process. So
yes.
um, the first one that a lot of clients want to claim is your home office deduction. So if you're
Mm-hmm.
actually working from home, but there, make sure you check out the rules, because again, those change,
Mm-hmm.
and there's set parameters that for
Mm-hmm.
claiming your home office. It's usually a percentage of your total square space. If you have office supplies, so if you've bought a computer, pens, pencils, anything it takes to run the business, any tools that you buy, depending on what you do. So, like, say that you are a mechanic that goes from place to place and you repairs people's vehicles on their premises, then your set of tools are going to be an expense for you, as well
Yep.
as either your mileage and or your car, whichever way you end up doing that.
Yeah.
Um, so those are
Um,
some of the basic ones that I see the most.
Yes, for sure. Another one that I see a lot is uniform.
Yep.
Their uniform that they wear. Some people have their shirts and stuff logoed. I don't. I don't have nothing like that. But there are people that have a set uniform that they have to wear, like an automotive shop.
Yep.
Places like that. Um, so that's another one. Real
Yep.
estate is a good one. They have to have their uniform. They have set dress code that they have to wear.
Mhm.
And so when they're doing showing homes and things like that,
Yep.
um,
But the uniform, I've learned you have to be very careful on that one. That's one of those ones. It's not necessarily a red flag,
yes,
but it
yes,
does kind of draw attention. So,
mm-hmm,
for instance, let's pick on your real estate agent. If they're buying clothes that they can then wear out to drinks with the buddy that night,
mm-hmm,
no, that won't
yeah,
work. They need to
correct,
have the name of the company. They need to be branded
yes,
in such a manner.
mm-hmm,
Or like if you're a mechanic, it's going to be your little jumpsuit that you're not going to want to wear out to dinner with your wife.
right,
A big one for a lot of my clients is shoes. They want to write their
yes,
shoes off. Well, unless they're
mm-hmm,
steel toes,
right,
no, because we all
yep,
need shoes.
right,
So
yep,
uniform is a good one, but it's also with all deductions,
yep,
use it wisely and make sure you're
yeah.
following the rules.
Very, very good point. A few years ago, we had one that tried to claim thongs because that was a uniform as hers. And, we had to go through the concept of why it was not considered a uniform. So
Yep.
there are things that are like that out there in the world that would not be classified.
Yep.
I think a big one is make sure if you are a 1099, you talk with your tax preparer before
Mhm.
you just claim everything. Just because it's able to be claimed, it might not be the best idea.
Right.
Um, so we talked about contractors quite a bit. So kind of go over W2's with me. So I know W2's are taxes taken out. Tell me who pays the taxes. Does the employer pay all taxes or does the employee pay some taxes? Tell me about that.
So with each employee, you have several taxes. Your first one is your federal income tax. That one is paid solely by the employee. Okay, so it's the employer will deduct it from your check and then they submit it into the IRS. And a lot of times you'll see it on your statement as FIT, FIT, and that
Mm-hmm.
stands for federal income tax. Then the next tax is we commonly refer to as FICA. It's basically Social Security. So FICA is paid half and half. The employer pays half and the employee pays half. And again, the employer deducts it from the employee's check and submits it on to the IRS. There's also Medicare. That's another part of Social Security. and it's also paid 50/50. And then you have a few that are paid strictly by the employer, and those are usually what we refer to as SUTA and FUTA. So SUTA is your state unemployment tax. Sometimes it's called state unemployment insurance. And then
Hmm.
there's FUTA, which is your federal unemployment tax. And those are wholly, there are some states that have some employee contributions, but none of the states around the Oklahoma, Missouri area where Wes and I are do that. It's a pure employer cost. There's also we call SIT for your state income tax. That's 100% on the employee, again submitted by the employer to the proper state. And sometimes, depending on where you live, there might even be a local or city tax, and that's again usually paid by the employee.
Hmm.
So to recap, employee pays income tax at the federal and state and local levels, and then they pay half of Social Security and half of Medicare, while the employer pays the other half of Social Security and Medicare, and they also pay any unemployment taxes.
Sorry, I was parched. So, this is what a W-2 would look like on the screen. This is pretty much what you would get sent out to you if you're a W-2.
Mhm.
If you are a business, you are filling this out, hopefully electronically, because it's a lot easier to do it by
Yes.
e-filing it. I will say that Office Depot has a really good deal on getting W2s and stuff. If you do not have a software, I will show this. It is pretty much everything in one. I mean, it's got W2s, 1099s, NEC, 1099 miscellaneous. It's
Is
got
there a CD in that program?
there is, so you can file all of it electronically.
Well, that's awesome.
Yes.
They didn't have that before. That's pretty cool.
Yes, so it's pretty much I can file 15 e-file up to 15 forms for free. And
Awesome.
so if you don't know, it's a really good discount, a lot easier than what I was gonna do. And so I was happy that I found it. I also found a pretty amazing notebook, and this is off topic, but it's got pretty much to where I can fill out everything. Just kind of keeps me a little more in line.
Yep.
So I liked it, and then I also found amazing pens, and so
And this is how you can tell that Wes and I are complete geeks because we enjoy office
right,
supplies.
yes, and I am a big one on pens, so I can never find a pen that I like. So when we sold our house, I found one that I really liked, but I couldn't find one similar to it. But these are way better. I mean, they are amazing.
And they
And
write nice and smooth, and
yeah, oh yeah. And
yeah,
they
that's
have blue and
important.
black, and they have
Yep.
other colors too. So, um,
Mm.
and then I, of course, had to get the, normal black ones because I
Yep.
love how they write, but
Yep.
they don't last very long.
No, and they
Um,
tend to disappear around me for some reason.
yeah, probably because people take them. Mine's
I
a
think
big
they
one.
sign their form and off they go
Yeah.
with your pen.
Yeah, I'm gonna say a lot of times when I have people sign up, you know, in in the office, I'll be like, "Oh, I'm missing my good pen," and then I'm like, "Oh man, I bet they took it." And so
Yeah.
I'm a pen fanatic. I love having pens that write really good, and so so the best thing to do if they have not used a software to manage their more along the 1099 side, because if they haven't managed a software for a W2, they wouldn't have taxes taken out, so they wouldn't be able to do that a W2. But for a 1099, this box was amazing find for me, and it wasn't bad price either. So
It's good.
um, Office Depot was where I got that one at, and um, so now tell me about exempt. So I know we had talked the other day about, being a W-2 and if they're exempt. I have not, I've seen, or I've heard it, but I have not seen an actual person be an exempt from taxes. So kind of tell me about that.
So the exempt status is basically meant for very low income individuals. So I believe, if I remember, and I'm doing this from memory, I believe it's like 12,550 or something along those lines. as a single person or 25 for a married person. So between the two of you, if you're married, the total household income needs to be less than 25,000. And basically the federal government's come along and said, you know what, if you're making less than 25,000, you're probably close to the poverty line, so there's no taxes due. So your
Mm.
employer, you can select exempt, and your employer will not take taxes. But now that means for the whole year. It doesn't mean that you're in January and you haven't made the 12,005, so you don't have to pay taxes this year,
Mm.
because if you go out and get a job in November, it might push you over the threshold.
Right.
You'll
Yep.
also, if you're a W-2 employee, a lot of times you'll see in December your take-home pay was $600, and in January when you get your first check, you're making an extra $100. Well, don't get too excited. That's that threshold again. They're
Mm-hmm.
not taking as much in taxes as you start to earn throughout the upcoming weeks. Yeah, they're going to come back and take their chunk, and your check's going to go back down to where it normally is. So I used to get a ton of questions at the first of every year. Why aren't they taking any taxes out? Because you haven't hit the threshold yet.
Right. Now, tell me about a W-2. So, the W-4 gets sent out to them to fill out.
Mhm.
What's the best way for them? And I'm going to bring it up so we can have a preview of it. What's the best way for them to do a W-4 if they want less taken out through the year and get more back at the end of the year?
So the first thing, they've changed the W-4 so
They
much, so
they
a
have,
lot.
yes.
Not only the form itself, but also the tax calculations going on the backside. When I first started in accounting, the pretty much the rule of thumb was, if you wanted a big refund at the end of the year or in April, then you would file single with zero. That gives you the lowest deductions, and they take about, or they gives, sorry, takes the highest deductions, and then it gives you the biggest refund at the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Well, IRS kind of, I think they got tired of being used as a bank, because I
Yeah.
mean, seriously, your goal should be not to get a refund. Your goal should be to try to break even at the end of the year. If you need to save money, then go open a savings account and put in X amount of dollars every week.
Right.
Why let the IRS take interest on your money? So don't do that. It's my number one thing. Try to get it where you break even. And the
Mm-hmm.
best way to do that is by telling the truth on this form. If you're married and you got two kids, then you're married with two. Don't go single zero when you're married with two. They'll take out more, you'll get a bigger refund, but they're starting to penalize people because IRS
Mm-hmm.
is really trying to crack down and discourage that. It probably impacts their cash flow, and again, they're just tired of being used as a large savings account and issuing these large returns.
Right.
So that's the best thing, is just fill this form out honestly, follow the directions, and be truthful with your employer and give them the right classification for you.
So what if they want to kind of split it half and half? What if they want to do like half the year, say the first 6 months of claiming zero, and the last half of the 6 months claiming their dependents? Would that be a wise decision, or would you recommend probably not doing that?
I would probably recommend not doing that. Now, if you're doing that because you got married in the middle of the year, and by that marriage you inherited two dependents, because let's
Mm.
say you're a man and you marry a woman and she's got two children, the father's not in the scene, and you are um, their caregiver, and you are going to take them as dependents on your tax return, then that is a good enough reason to come in the middle of the
Right.
year and change it. But if you're
Yes.
just doing it because you want a bigger return or a smaller refund at the end of the year, you might get a little pushback from your HR department.
Yeah.
They're starting to help us and advise us with these things, and they might actually let you know that that's probably not the best idea if your
Yeah.
circumstances have not changed.
Right. Yeah, and I think a lot of times, I've heard back before they changed the form, when it was a little more simple, that it was easier for them to go in there and to do it. But now, it's a little more complicated, to where, you have to do the math, I mean,
Mhm.
you have to really read it. I mean, there for a while, when it says multiply the number of qualifying children under age 17 by 2000. I had a few that were like, well, I didn't even notice that. I just put zero on all of it and just went about it. And so I think reading your W 4 is the
Yep,
first step.
I would
Not
agree.
just getting it, done and out of the way so you can start that job, but really making sure that you read it all the way through. And so now tell me about step four. So this is always something that I've never really done. So other income, anything like that, deductions, extra withholding. I've seen people that do the extra withholdings, and that's more to take out more throughout the year so they get a bigger refund, correct?
Correct. There could be other reasons to do that. For instance, 10 plus years ago, the last time I was an employee, my husband actually was a very pretty successful contractor.
Mm.
And rather than, and I did it out of laziness, I have to be honest, and rather than go in and file the estimated quarterly tax payments on his business,
Mm.
I went into my payroll person, which happened to be me at the time, and I
Right.
increased my withholding by an extra
Hmm.
$100 a week. So
Right.
I was actually trying to pull out of my check enough money
Mm.
to cover his business.
Gotcha.
So that's actually the main reason I see clients adding the extra withholding is that they know that they have a tax burden. I knew one person that did it because she knew that she still owed from the year before, was struggling to
Mm.
pay it off. So she chose to do it through this way. And when
Okay.
you settle up with the IRS, it did go against that. Rather than issue her a refund for what they
Right.
had, they applied it to her past due balance.
Gotcha.
So that's pretty much the only other time. The first one, the other income, not from jobs, they're just wanting to see how other income can impact your tax calculations, and that's pretty
Mm.
much what that question is about. And
Okay.
then same with the deductions. They're just trying to help you figure out what your tax return would look like by asking you these questions here.
Okay. So we're gonna flip back to the W-9 because we didn't go through that and show that on the screen. So I'm gonna pull that up because it's it's a W-9, so people kind of get confused or don't know what to put where.
Yep.
And so kind of want to walk through it as well. So the first portion, so this up here, is pretty much going to be their basic information.
Mhm.
Kind of just going through everything, um, their personal information. Now, taxpayer identification number can be one of two things. Um, and that kind of goes back to, the top up here on if you put your name or the business. And so explain to me which one we would want to pick if someone is just a contractor doing um, services for someone and they
Okay.
don't have an LLC name.
So when I first started out doing bookkeeping on the side for people, it was just me, and the people were paying me as an individual. So in that instance, I would put my name on line one. I would leave line two completely blank, and then down at the bottom, I would put my social security number down. And
Okay.
then over the years, as I grew and I got better, I did decide to become an LLC, but I was still opting to pay my taxes as a sole proprietor. So at that point, I would put my business name in line two, and then under line or box three, I would check the first one, the individual sole proprietor or single member LLC. And then
Okay.
I would put in my employer identification number as opposed to my social security.
Mm, okay. And then, vice versa would go for social security number. Social security
Yep.
number is strictly your person, you yourself,
Yes.
not a business.
Correct.
A lot of times people will get very confused on it. I've
Mhm.
seen it a few times since I started doing taxes back in 2018. I've seen people that get very confused on that part.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
even had a, oh, go ahead.
Depending on your state rules, so like in Oklahoma, you don't have to file a fictitious business name as long as you're using your personal name within the company name. So for me, like I could have Raelyn Yoder Accounting and not need to
Hmm.
file for the federal ID number or file a fictitious name, even
Right.
though I was the sole proprietor. So in that instance, I would fill in my name on the top field. I would put Raelyn Yoder Accounting. In the second field, I would check the first box in three and then use my social security number for the tax identification.
Oh, look, we've got someone that joined us. Must have been my wife. Let's see. I don't know. It shows myself under there, so it must be her because she was
Let's see.
asking to try to join. And so another one I would recommend, this is a very long form. I mean, as you can see, it's 6 pages. Do you recommend them going through this with a professional, or do you think this is something that they can do normally by themselves?
I would say a little bit of both. So if this is your first time out of the gate and you've never filled out this form and you've always been an employee your whole life, then it probably would not hurt to reach out to somebody like Wes or I just to have a quick conversation on how your business is structured and what the proper answers on this form. If
Right.
you've been doing this for years like me, this is something that is pretty easy and it's just almost the same as filling out a paperwork at the doctor's office. You just
Right.
fill in the necessary and go your way. So if it's your first time and you're not and you're uncertain, then I suggest you call because this has some big implications on how you're going to receive your tax documentation in order to
Right.
file your return.
Yep. I did want to go back to box 3 because this is one thing
Mhm.
that a lot of people, get
Yes.
confused on is, individual, so proprietor or single member LLC, C corporation, S corporation, partnership, a trust, estate, limited liability company. So tell me what those mean and kind of break it down each one and where should they be filing if they're just, a basic person or if they're corporation. A lot of them probably know, but a lot of the smaller businesses might not know what they need to file on.
Yeah. This form used to be a lot easier back in the day before they introduced the concept of LLCs.
Hmm.
Back then, it was just are you a corporation or are you an individual? So
Right.
it's gotten a little more complex, which is why it's now 6 pages. Um,
Hmm.
so, kind of in a nutshell, an individual is somebody that you're working off of your social security number. You've not filed a business. You don't have a business name. It's just you. C&S corporations, of course, they've gone through a lawyer or through a
Hmm.
service and they've set themselves up a corporation and they're taxed completely different than
Hmm.
an individual is. Partnerships, they can be LLPs a lot of times, and they can also be a corporation that's set up as a partnership. And then I don't have a lot to do with trust, but of course
Me
that
either.
is one of the options that's limited use. Where a lot of people get confused is they say, "Well, I'm an LLC, so do which box do I pick? Do I pick the
Hmm.
first one or the second one?"
Right.
Well, LLCs and why it's kind of confusing is because there's multiple types of LLCs.
Hmm.
There's only one type of C corp. You either are or you're not. That
Right.
one's pretty easy to determine. But LLCs are a little harder because there's multiple types. As an
Hmm.
LLC, and you do this when you set your LLC up. At that point, when you make this determination and you fill out the form and you say that I want to be taxed as a sole proprietor or I want to be taxed as a corporation, or if it's like in my instance, it's actually an LLP, which is an LLC partnership, then we would pick the bottom line. So
Mm.
the only time you're going to pick individual proprietor, single member, is when you're filing, you have an LLC, you're the only person in the LLC, and you're filing your taxes just like you did before you created the LLC. You're filing as a sole proprietorship, which means you're
Yep.
filing self-employed.
Right.
LLC as a corporation has to file a corporation return. They're a lot more complex, they cost more to
Hmm.
do, and a lot of small businesses just stay as a standard LLC.
Right. And I do have videos on my YouTube channel that regards how to start up a LLC and a S
Yep,
corp, and and who should be in that category of an S corp or whatnot. So those are on there as well. And so
yep.
if you
A lot
have
of good
questions,
information in those.
yes. So let's see what else we need to talk about. So we went over W2's, we went over 1099s, we went over W4's and W9s. So as a small business owner, how should they be deciding, or when should they decide if they need to hire a W2 employee on, and how can when they change from a contractor to an employee?
So there's That's a pretty deep subject with a lot of variables to it. So we'll try
It
to
is.
go over the kind of the high level.
Yep.
Um, in a nutshell, the primary difference between an independent contractor and an employee is the level of control that you as the business owner maintain over that individual and whose equipment are they using.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot more to it than that. I'm going really high level here. So for instance, I'm an independent contractor, as is Wes, and when we take on a client, that client does not dictate what hours I work. They don't
Mm-hmm.
say that you have to work between 8 and 5. They do not provide me with a computer to work. I'm using all my own equipment. Let's pick on the mechanic again. If you're a mechanic and you go to a place of work and you're using their tools that they provide, you are an employee. If you're working at somewhere else and you provide your own tools, then you're probably an independent contractor. And there's some wiggle room in there, but you're probably an independent contractor. So to me, that's the two major things is that as an employer or the business owner, you do not get to dictate how and when a independent contractor does their job. You dictate the end results. So like if
Right.
I was hiring somebody to help me, I would say, hey, I need you to clean up this account and I need it be done by the end of the month. That's all I get to dictate. I don't tell them that I need you working on it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday between 8 and
Right.
5. I can't
Yeah.
do that. And I'm not giving them a computer to work off of. They have to provide their own equipment as an independent contractor.
Right. So if they're an employee and they do have a set schedule, going from that contractor to the employee part, is it more beneficial for them to be a contractor or as an employee if you was in their shoes?
Um,
I know it's hard.
that's a tough one because there's a lot of variables there. So
Yeah.
again, we'll kind of stick really high level. And of course, my first answer is going to say it kind of depends.
Yeah.
As a for instance, let's say that let's stick with our mechanic guy. So you've been working in this person's shop, you're bringing in all your own tools, and you've been paid as an independent contractor. You set your own hours, you come and go as you please, depending on when you have clients. They might call you up and say, we've got a truck in here that needs to be worked on. Can you get it done by Friday? And that's all. And you would probably even need to have a key to the building so you can come and go as you please. That's more
Right.
of an independent contractor. And then on the advantages to you being an independent contractor in that scenario is that you actually get to write off your gas to and from that place of business. You get to
Mm-hmm.
write off any new tools that you buy, your uniforms, things like that. So if they come to you and they say, you know what, you're doing so good, we would like to hire you as an employee. And you're thinking, well, what does that mean to me? Well, if you make $100 as an independent contractor, you had better be setting aside at least 30 to 35% of that to pay your taxes.
Mm-hmm.
So out of that $100, you're really only making 65.
Right.
As an employee, all that burden shifts to the employer. They have to pay your taxes. So, well, you still have to pay your income tax, but they have to pay your Social Security. That's the big
Right.
difference. Half of it
Mm-hmm.
is, rather than you paying all your Social Security. But then they also get a more control over your coming and going. There's no more 2-hour lunches if they say so because you're on their turf. But if you
Right.
break a wrench, they need to buy you a new wrench. It shouldn't be on you to go buy that wrench.
Right.
Um, and then they should be bringing you the trucks to work on. You shouldn't be calling and finding trucks and saying you need to show up at the shop and I'll fix you there. The To me, the biggest determination isn't that scenario. The control has a lot of it, but it's also is what other benefits is my employer going to offer?
Right.
A lot of employers offer health insurance, sick time, vacation time.
Mm-hmm.
If you're self-employed and you have a sick day, guess what? You're not making money. You're
Mm-hmm.
sitting on your couch wishing you felt better so you could be working, but
Right.
you don't have sick days.
Yep.
So those are kind of the differences. You'd have to look at the benefits
Mm-hmm.
versus the loss of freedom. And I think that's why a lot
Yep.
of us have been independent contractors for so long is we
Mm-hmm.
value our freedom over
Yeah.
financial security.
Right. Yeah. And I think a big one, even if they do want to be that W-2 employee or want to be the contractor, they want to be the W-2 employee. Sometimes, I would rather pay my own health care or whatnot, or pay taxes at the end of the year, than have to be mandated to, working
Yep.
nonstop and a set schedule. Um, I have always been a W-2 employee up until, I, till 2018. And then I got hired on part-time or full-time with QuickBooks Live, but even then I was still, a contractor on the side. I still have my own thing I was doing. And so I think a big one was for me was making sure I had health care, because, that was something I did not want to, be without, because, we had been without it before. And so, but I think for me, I would rather be a contractor, being able to set my own hours and being able to
Yep.
do what I want, than being a W-2 employee. And,
Yep.
everyone has their own opinion on that. But for me, a contractor, they have more wiggle room, and, like you said, if you're out sick, then, you're out money. Um, but in the end, when it comes down to it, it, it could outrank the W-2 because you're more
Yep.
tied down.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so,
and I've been sick when I had W-2 jobs. I've been on my couch sick and got that phone
mm,
call from the boss. I don't care how
yep.
bad you feel, you've got to get in
Hmm.
here because this is happening and I don't know how
Oh,
to
me
do
too.
this. And you
Right.
got to be kidding me. I've got the flu. I'm running 104 temperature. I'm
Yep.
infectious, by the way.
Yeah.
So you
Yep.
have to go in because they guilt you into it. And then you make
Right.
everybody in the office sick. Everybody's mad
Right.
at you.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I agree. It really boils down to a lifestyle choice. But now
Mhm.
I will warn people out there, if you're thinking about going back and forth, if you want to be an independent contractor, the one thing that you have to have is discipline,
Right.
because
Yeah.
you have to be able to work when you can work, because
Mhm.
it's not an 8 to 5 anymore. You're hustling, you're
Yeah.
trying to work, 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 and then you get sick. You've got no sick time or no
Right.
vacation.
Yeah.
You've got to work in advance to make that money so you can take that time off.
Yeah.
But I've been self-employed since 1991, and
Mm.
during those years, I will occasionally go
I
back and
was
take a
1 years
W-2
old,
job.
Raylan. 1 year. I
Oh,
was one
making me
year
feel
old.
old, Beth. Thank you. And yes, I am old. But I've been doing this a long time, and I will go back occasionally when business was dry, and I would go back and
Yeah.
take a W-2 job. But every single time, I regretted it. I really
Yeah.
resented my loss of freedom. I really
Mhm.
did. To me, that's worth more than maybe not making as much or having the other struggles that you do with businesses.
Laura said she was being born in 1991. So.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it. So now I am the old lady of the bunch. I know.
And for me, my big one was, being a self-employed, and, being, because when we first opened, we were just an LLC. And so then we, rebranded and became an S Corp. But it was the fact that there's not that micromanaging, the breathing down your neck, making sure, hey, you got to do this the right way. You got to do this. You got to do this. I want it done my way only. And
Yeah.
so that was a big one for me, is that as an independent contractor, I can do it the right way and make sure I help the people, but I'm not going to do it the wrong way and try to wiggle it to make it look like the right way. And
Right.
so I think it just is a lot of, being a W-2 employee is a lot of work. And, you know, making sure that they're there on time, making sure that you monitor them. But um, me as a business owner, making sure that, it's hard to hire a W-2 employee because, it's harder on the business. And so
Well,
my, oh, go ahead.
a lot of times, as I noticed, as my company started to grow and I needed some outside help because I wasn't able to do it all, one of the first things that I had to stop and consider is, what do I need help with? And
Mm-hmm.
so the first thing I did was track my time for about 2, 3 months to figure out where I was spending my time. And I
Right.
found out that I was spending about 15, 20 hours a week doing little admin
Mm-hmm.
things. I always call them
Mm-hmm.
piddly, but I don't mean to insult you admin people out there because you are the backbone of everybody.
Right.
But the little things were killing me. The sending emails,
Mm-hmm.
replying to emails, reading
Yep.
newsletters, just all that little stuff. So, but I also knew that I was only spending about 20 hours a week on that. Well, that's not
Right.
enough to support a full-time person. So
Mm-hmm.
before you hire anybody, you really have to know exactly what you're going to ask that person to do.
Right.
So in the beginning, it's really easier and to your advantage to use independent contractors. So the first
Right.
thing I did was hire an admin assistant.
Mm-hmm.
And she helped me get my Asana set up. She helped me with my emails, and she helped me with some of the emails going back and forth between the clients and some of the requests that we have, and even to help me a little bit with some of the social media posting and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But then my bookkeepers, when I started bringing bookkeepers on board to help me with that side of it, I again decided to go with independent contractors because one, I just did not know, we as a bookkeeping business, somebody might stay with you for 2 or 3 years and then
Mm-hmm.
their business closes. They decide to
Right.
go back to work, so you've lost your money stream.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't want to risk having to, it cost extra to use W-2 employees because I have to
Mm-hmm.
pay half their taxes. And
Right.
then if you lay them off, it can affect your unemployment rates because
Right.
you've let somebody go. So for
Mm-hmm.
me, it was easier. I would personally rather have 3 independent contractors before I hired one full-time employee. You
Right.
also, in my shoes, I have to provide them with a computer and all the
Mm-hmm.
stuff that they need to work remotely, and that can get
Right.
expensive. So you
One
really
thing I
have to
want
compare the cost.
Yep, for sure. One thing I wanted to ask is, with contractors, do they need to have a contract? Do you recommend them getting a contract done up? If, say, they're a small business, should that small business get a contract saying, hey, I'm going to hire this person as a contractor for X many months or X many years? Or what are your thoughts on, contracts for contractors?
Yeah, definitely.
Yep.
They're necessary because you don't want to put yourself into the position of he said, she said in a
Mm-hmm.
few months when your contractor gets testy with you. Not everybody's alike. Not everybody has the same work ethic that you
Right.
do. It's your business. You need to protect yourself. So yeah, Rocket Lawyer, one of those sites like
Mhm.
that. There's
Yeah.
several of them that just comes
Really
to
good one.
mind. I'm not
Yep.
endorsing any of them, but that is a pretty good one.
Yep.
They can easily help you with the contract, and it just needs to be the basic. You need to agree on when the contract begins, when it ends, what your pay
Mhm.
is, and any kind of parameters. So, like what I typically build in mine is that we're coming on this day, it's going to be this much hours, and it's dependent upon the projects that are assigned. So, my
Mhm.
work is pretty much projects. I can assign different projects to different people. And I put that right in there so that way they
Right.
know exactly about how many hours. And the reason why I personally started doing that was I did have one contractor that we had agreed upon that verbally way back in my early days. And at one point, he actually turned in 45 hours and tried to ding me for overtime.
Right.
You're not an employee. You don't get overtime. And I never authorized 45 hours that week. And we had even verbally talked. His hours should be between 20 and no more than 30. So hitting me with 45 hours was a surprise, but I had nothing in writing. So
Right.
I ended up paying it, but then decided from now on, we put it in writing. We know exactly what the terms are. So if there's
Mhm.
any disagreement, we can go back to that piece of paper and say, this is what we agreed on.
Right. Yeah. And just so everyone knows, me and Raylyn met through QuickBooks Live back in 2021. Was that 2021?
No, it
Yeah,
was
cuz
before that.
no, cuz was it 2020? Yeah, it
Yeah,
was 2020.
it was
Yep.
before the pandemic. Everything's
Yep.
before or after.
Yeah, because I started in January, and so yeah, so me and Raylan met off QuickBooks Online, doing bookkeeping work, and then we grew to liking each other's standards and being able to work together, and so we kind of bounce each other. If I have questions, then I send it to her. If she has questions, she sends it to me, and I think that's a big one is finding
Mhm.
people that's in your niche that you can trust, that you can work with. And, Laura with Crystal Skull Bling does an amazing job with that. She really connects with her people in her niche and be able to, help them grow, but also help herself grow too. So yeah, she just said networking is so important. And
Yep.
so she's also very good at marketing. my last video yesterday, I recommended her for marketing. She's very good at, helping you with website designs, logos, places like that, things like that. That she went to marketing for school, and so she's very smart, and she knows that um, the items that will catch people's attention. And so we just rebranded and got ourselves a true logo because we had someone that just didn't really, I felt settled. It was like, this is what we got. And so um
Mhm.
just so you know, Laura is she's very multi, she knows a lot. And so let's see, what other questions would you recommend or think that someone would need to ask regarding contractors or W2s? Does anyone have anything in the chat? It's my wife and Laura. My wife finally joined. She said to make sure it's known, so I didn't want to get beat up at home. So,
Don't do that. It's not worth it.
hi, Sarah.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi. Um, so yeah, I mean, I think for small businesses, you see it time and time again that it seems like they are so in a rush, and with the new new contractor rules, it's very important to make sure that you stay compliant. And doing that, um, you don't have to have a bookkeeper, but if you don't know what you're doing, you could cause yourself to get an audit or cause yourself to wind up owing more than what you want.
Yeah.
So, reaching out to someone that knows about 1099s and W2s is a very important thing. I had one, I think it was yesterday, that was a W2 employee, but he's exempt, and so is um, the nonprofit that he works for. So it was very strange, having a W2 employee that everything's exempt. And so, but Laura, but having that person that you can talk to, about it, knowing if you're a contractor or a W2 employee is a big one. Hopefully people would know if they're a contractor or a W2 employee. But hey, you never know. You might just assume that you're a contractor and then you get a W2 in the mail. I mean, I guess it all depends. But as a small business owner, you want to make sure you're trying to stay as compliant as possible, making sure that, you're not letting anything just go. And
Yeah.
I think with the new contractor rule, it was a big one because, I had been getting emails, phone calls, all kinds of things constantly asking about, the rules and everything. And, we're not 100%, we don't know everything because they change it all the time,
All the time. Yep.
and so we could know it right now and they could change it next year. I mean, you never know. So start making sure that you are staying compliant. Having a bookkeeper or accountant um, is a very big one. Um, Again, Raelyn is in Oklahoma. Is it Oklahoma or Tulsa?
I'm actually, well, kind of both. I'm in Tulsa,
I say
but
that's what I thought.
the other half of my partnership is actually in Goshen, Indiana.
Yeah, yeah. And she's actually remote right now. Aren't you in California still?
Yep. I am
Yeah.
sitting in Needles, California right now, where it is a
Yep.
balmy 62 but windy.
Ugh. I'm gonna say I don't know how cold it is freezing today here. Yeah, it's 33. We got a bunch of
Woo!
snow. Not a bunch, but enough that it made me not want to work. And so it's also slushy out, so we got a lot of rain before it. But it didn't turn into ice, which was nice because normally we get the rain and then it turns into ice and then we get the snow. And so that was
Mhm.
kind of nice. Laura is actually from Oklahoma area too. I don't think she was born there, but she used to live there and was raised there. And so, Laura, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't you born in California? I don't remember. She'll comment maybe, or I scared her away. And so either one. One thing I will say while she's is that if they are a small business and they have had an employee, yeah, Callie, yep. So if they had a small business and they had to let that contractor go, when is the best time to send out that 1099? Is it okay to send it out right away, or should they wait till the end of the year?
For the 1099, I personally would wait and send it out right about now,
Yep.
because it depends on the software that you're using to complete it. So, like,
Mm-hmm.
Wes and I both use QuickBooks Online an awful lot.
Yep.
Most of our clients are on that. And
Yep.
with QuickBooks Online, you pretty much get one chance. So
Yep.
if you do that 1099, I'm not even sure QuickBooks Online would let you do it in the middle of the year, until the year closes.
Mm,
But you're then going to have to be, it'll cost you extra, I guess is what I'm trying to say, if you do it
yep.
then and you wait. Plus, they can't file the returns until
Right.
January, so there's nothing to be gained by sending it out early.
Yep.
And if you're using a good bookkeeping system, then the information's there and it's
Right.
just easier to do them all at
Yeah.
once.
And as a tax person, that contractor is not going to remember where they put that 1099. So if you send it out in, say, June, say they left in June, you still have another about 7 months before they even can file taxes. I
Yeah.
mean, we're 2 days into the IRS opening and accepting returns. So, I mean, it's truly the contractors are not going to remember where they put it. So, making sure, I mean, like Raelyn said, I would be sending it out about right about now. I normally try to, um, normally about the third week in January is normally when I start getting everything going. This year it's kind of been crazy, so it's it's this week. And so, but I mean, they can't file this year. They wasn't able to submit a return until the 23rd. And so it's really important to make sure you know when is a good time to send out your 1099s.
Yep.
So I think this is my longest video because yesterday was 38, which I was proud of that one. So,
That's
um,
because you got me on. I can go on for this stuff for hours because I'm
oh, I
quick and
know.
easy.
That's why I figured, I did one yesterday and then I did this one today. And then Friday, I'm going live with another client of mine and we're going to
Mhm.
be talking about taxes as well. And so, this is the most I've went live. And so, but I've been trying to do better. Laura's been trying to kick me in the butt to try to get some TikTok um, clients to where I can go live on TikTok. But I'm just not a big live person. I don't know. Laura's way better at it than I am. So,
Oh, you
plus,
sell yourself short, Wes. You're doing great.
plus my information isn't. It's more beneficial, but it's not entertaining.
No, no,
So.
we're pretty well boring. Yeah,
Right.
I agree with you
Yeah.
on that.
We talk about pens and notebooks.
And we get excited about those things
I
too.
know. I'm telling you, I am super stoked about my pens. I've got 4 of them and I got 2 black and 2 blue. And Sarah, you are not stealing my pens. You're
Oh,
not. They're
hey,
good pens.
I heard a challenge being an issue, Sarah. Steal those pens.
Don't encourage her because she will. She will steal them. We're like pin hoggers. Like, if she finds a good one, I steal her. And I'm like, I'm taking this pin. She blamed me the other day for taking the one that when we signed our house. And so, hang on, let's do a video interview on business stuff. I have
Oh,
no
she's
clue.
she's come up with an. I think I know what she's meaning. Let's do a video on where we talk about all the different office supplies and stuff that we use.
Oh, there you go.
Is that
Yeah,
what you?
I'm
She's
entertained.
entertaining for us.
Well, I mean, I could talk about, I mean, I got calculators. My conference room right now is my office. And so, I mean, I took over the conference room because it's easier to just spread everything out on a big table instead of a small little desk. And so, if I bought a new desk, Sarah would probably kill me. And so, but I want one that you can stand up and, or
Yeah,
go down. Just because
I'm
it's
looking at
pretty
those too.
entertaining.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and yeah,
They're expensive.
if you're a good chair is one of the number one
Oh,
investments
yeah.
that you can make when you
Yeah.
spend as much time sitting as we do.
Yeah,
Uh,
for sure.
and right now I'm in an RV and I'm sitting in the little dinette area, and I'm here to tell you, boy, I can hardly walk when I
Yeah.
sit here too long.
Oh,
So
yeah.
good chairs are important. Two monitors. I could
Yeah.
not work without my
Oh,
two
yes.
monitors. I could use a third, but my table's not big enough.
Yeah, I'm gonna say I have I have one small I'm on my laptop right now because like I said, I'm working on in the conference room, but my monitor attached to the oh, there's a puppy.
This is
Oh,
my little
she's so
Leo.
sweet.
Oh,
Oh,
he keeps going in and out of the camera shot, but
yeah, she's cute though. Oh, how old is she?
that's a little boy. He's five.
Oh, he.
He'll be 6 months old on February 10th.
Oh,
So just about 5.5 months old.
he's a new one then. You didn't have him when you came by the house.
No, no,
Yeah.
he was actually because I do live in my RV and I have a very
Mm-hmm.
old dog and a very old cat. Some
Yeah.
friends of mine who raise toy poodles and golden
Oh,
doodles have they gifted him to me a
oh,
couple of
he's
months ago.
adorable. How
So
many?
yeah,
So Raylyn went through. So like I said, she's from Oklahoma area, and so she went to travel around to her clients. So how many clients have you seen since you've been on the road?
just three.
Three.
But I got to the one out here in California. I got
Yep.
to their place right before Thanksgiving, and I stayed all the way through the end of the year. And
Mm.
I'm ready to go back. Those people spoiled me rotten. I've got some really good clients. They fed me really good. They took
Yeah.
me out to see Yosemite Park, which if you're
Nice.
in California, please go see the park. It's just
Yeah.
so gorgeous. I can't wait to go back. But
Yeah.
and then I've seen one of my vets over in Kentucky,
Mm.
and then I've been up to northern Indiana to visit one of my clients there. So I still have to make it to
Wow.
Dallas and Florida and Oregon.
Yeah. And say we went to Dallas for the game. Arlington is where we stayed. The second time, I don't remember what city it was, but it was somewhere close. I mean, it wasn't far away, but I mean, that traffic. I mean, it is crazy.
Yeah.
So,
I spent a week on the Pacific Ocean. That's how I started
mm,
this year for 2023 was on the beach, and I was
yeah,
there by the Pacific Ocean, and I
yeah.
left.
I think I remember a phone call of someone getting lost.
Yeah, yeah. So first off, if you're an accountant, you have no sense of, or at least I don't, no sense of distances. So they told me that the beach was 900 yards from the camper. That sounds doable, right? Not when you spend 12 hours a day on your butt. No, no, it wasn't. So I head off, I get over, I find the beach, I turn around and come back, and I got lost in the dunes. It took
Oh,
me almost 2 hours to get out of those dunes. So
yeah.
yeah, and then the next day, my neighbor said something about me being gone the day before, and I says, "Yeah, I took a walk to the beach," and she says, "Oh, I wouldn't recommend doing that." I said, "Oh, I wouldn't either. I would not recommend that to anybody." But
Yeah.
I spent a week there, and then from there, I went down towards LA, and my goal was, because I'm in an RV, was to go around LA, and I hit
Mm,
this bumper to bumper traffic, 4 and 6
mm.
lanes wide, people everywhere,
Oh
and I'm thinking,
no.
"Hey, I'm in LA." I drive for 2 solid hours like that with people just whizzing around me, and I see a sign, LA in 120 miles. I'm like, I haven't even got to LA just like this. And yeah, it just got progressively worse until I
Oh
eventually
my
got, yeah.
goodness.
So no, I've got two people I need to visit in LA, actually three. And I'm having a hard time going back to visit them because
Yeah.
yeah, that just duh.
Mm, yeah, that's no fun.
No.
Well, I think that was all. I don't. Lori was jumping off because she's
Yep.
driving. Um, Sarah hasn't chatted. I don't know why she don't chat with us. She's
She's
mean.
ignoring us. Yeah,
Yeah,
she's just thinks she's better
yeah,
than us. Come on, Sarah.
yeah. Get it together. Come on, text us. Come on, just say LOL.
Nope. Nope, she's not
No,
gonna do it.
probably
Don't put her
not.
under pressure.
I know, right? Yeah. I don't know if she's probably dealing with the kids. I don't think she's text me.
No, she probably hopped on and then
No.
had a child emergency to deal with. That happens every time you turn around.
I know. They're so the our boy, he's cranky today, so I'm sure she's probably dealing with him being mean to her.
Well, as Sarah says, probably takes after Dad.
Yeah, yep, he does. He's a mean butt, just like me. But okay, so Raelyn from Oklahoma with K&R Yoder Bookkeeper Accounting, um, and then Weston with Weston's Tax and Bookkeeping. We both offer bookkeeping. I offer the taxes, and so if you need me, hit me up. And then if you have any questions, for sure, let us know, and one of us can reach out to you and answer any questions you might have. Raelyn, I appreciate you jumping on and chatting with me for a little over an hour. And then we will talk again.
Sounds great. Thank you, Wes, for inviting me. You have a wonderful day.
You too. Bye.
Bye.